Welcome back, everybody, to Watcher of All Things. My name is Kiki, and this is my podcast where I talk movies, TV shows, and all things entertainment. And today, I am so excited for this episode. It is episode 114, where we are talking about the highly anticipated film, The Drama. Stars Robert Pattinson, Zendaya, a very secretive film. There is a huge twist that is alluded to in the trailers. I successfully navigated going into the movie without any spoilers, which I think you should too. There is so much we are going to talk about today, but first, I hope you are all doing well. Happy Easter, I guess. It is going to be Easter Monday when this episode is coming out. Couple of things to plug before we get into the news of the episode, which we have some very big news to talk about today. First of all, just want to plug my new YouTube video, which is ranking the best picture winners of the 2020s, all the way from Parasite to One Battle After Another. You can find the new video on my YouTube channel. Really fun one to make, and it was fun revisiting a lot of these movies because I only briefly talked about them in the What Else I Watched segment last week, but it was really fun to revisit movies like Coda, movies like Oppenheimer, which I've only seen once, and that was in theaters, but watching it at home on my 4K was just an exhilarating thing. So go and check all of that out on the YouTube channel. Also, of course, timestamps below for today's episode. Look, this movie, The Drama, highly recommend you go into it as blind as possible. Do not read what the twist of this movie is, but we'll talk about that later in the episode. Remember, timestamps below. Go check out the YouTube video. But okay, let's get into the news. Our first piece of news, I want to start on a high note. The U.S. box office has reached $1.77 billion in quarter one of 2026. This is the best domestic start to a year since the COVID pandemic. So really every year has been a battle, and every year it feels like, are we back? Are we not back? Is the industry possibly over? But this is a really great indicator, and it's interesting to think like why this year, when I feel like there has been a lot of really great movie contenders, but this year, most of all, I think 2026 is finally the year of a lot of directors and filmmakers who have had these big projects lined up for a few years, but because of COVID, they delayed them, and now we are starting to reap the rewards of waiting and delaying a bunch of these projects. We sort of had it a little bit with last year, like One Battle After Another. Who knows? Maybe we could have got that a couple years earlier, or whatever it might have been, maybe even Sinners, but we are very much in the post-COVID film world now. I think we are fully sort of recovered from COVID, but you also have to look at the movies that we've had so far this year. In January alone, Avatar: Fire and Ash was still making a lot of money. Then, of course, we get 28 years later, The Bone Temple, which wasn't really a success. It didn't do that well, but still it kept people going to the movies in January when usually it's a lot quieter and it's mostly duds. Then in February, you have popular movies like Nirvana the Band, The Show, the Movie, Wuthering Heights. It just feels like every week almost there has been a reason to go to the cinema, whether it is re-releases of classic movies that is becoming more and more popular, getting more remasters in IMAX. Like I saw just last night, there was trailers for Shrek is going to be playing in theaters again, and Jerry Maguire, and different films like that that are celebrating anniversaries this year. And it feels like the big cinema chains are also very on board with doing re-releases. And of course, like IMAX movies have been making so much money so far this year. Project Hail Mary, I think it was over 50% of its box office globally was made from the large screen formats, whether that is Ultra AVX, whether that is IMAX or Dolby, whatever the big version that your cinema has, or maybe even Screen X. Project Hail Mary made 50% of its box office from those big formats. So it's really interesting to see the direction that film is going right now. We also had Hoppers, which is a fantastic original creative film that is animated, catered towards children, which there's a movie we're going to talk about and What Else I Watched today that, yes, is going to make $1 kajillion at the box office, but it is not a smart film. It is not a good film at all, really. It's solely bankrupt. There is no creativity behind it. It is simply jiggling the keys. But I think movies like Hoppers really give me this sort of hope for the future that we can get these original stories. I can't believe I'm saying it, but even the Toy Story 5 trailer, which I finally watched through for the full first thing last night, I watched the entire trailer because it played before my movie and I couldn't avoid it. I was like, wow, wow, I actually think Toy Story 5 looks good, and it looks like it's about something important, about, the war on iPads and iPad kids and the importance of playing away from screens. It's just very exciting. I think there's still a lot of really, really great films that are going to come out this year. I mean, even the drama, which I saw today at 1 p.m. on Good Friday, I think it's doing pretty well in pre-sales. Like, I think it's the second best A24 pre-sale or something like that, maybe behind the Materialists and Marty Supreme. I don't know. That might be completely wrong, but still, it's really exciting that we're kind of back a little bit. I feel like we're back a little bit. More and more people are craving original stories that are going to be these unique cinematic experiences like Hoppers, like Project Hail Mary. It's a fun time to be a movie fan. Like, yes, there's a lot of doom and gloom in the industry of maybe Warner Brothers isn't going to be Warner Brothers anymore. Maybe streaming will take over, but I think slowly people are turning on streaming. Very, very good news that the US box office is up because, of course, the world revolves around Hollywood when it comes to films, so people are going to be paying attention to the US box office. I'm very happy with this news. Now, let's move into a story that made me very sad. Last week, we talked about Ryan Gosling onboarding the new Daniels film from Universal. Well, Ryan Gosling has already exited the project, so according to Deadline, after hoping to get a deal done for Ryan Gosling to star in Universal's secret, untitled project from the Daniels, sources are now saying Gosling will no longer appear in the film. When Deadline first broke the news, Gosling was in negotiations to star. We also learned that the film was set to shoot in LA this summer after receiving a California tax credit. The project was unable to move off its targeted date, and because of this, scheduling could not be worked out with the studio and Gosling to close a deal. This is so depressing because I think his sense of humor, his sensibility as an actor, and sort of the way he can navigate the very harsh, sad things that we saw in Project Hail Mary, that we've seen in La La Land, but how he does the humor as well. Like, we see in Project Hail Mary so much of the time he's just being hilarious, is so perfect for what I see a Daniels film being after Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like, that movie is just so good, balancing the tones sort of the hope, the desperation, the comedy, and I was excited to see that again with Ryan Gosling as the lead. So curious who's going to step in instead of him now, because to me, there's not a lot of actors like Ryan Gosling. I think he is very much a one-of-a-kind kind of actor. I don't see anybody else possibly doing Project Hail Mary. He is just a one in a million. So disappointing news, but let's not get down for too long, because this week we had a first look at Bong Joon-ho's animated feature debut about a piglet squid who dreams of movie stardom. Academy Award winning writer and director Bong Joon-ho's first animated feature, Ally, is releasing in 2027. It's about the squid who is like doing these big Hollywood dreams. He's never done an animated feature before. I think this is very exciting from him. Seo Woo-sik will produce the film, making his third collaboration with Bong following Mother and Okja. The film's actually been in development since 2019, so it's been a long time coming. I'm very excited that Bong Joon-ho is already making another film. I thought maybe after Mickey 17 not being what everybody had hoped, it was this post Best Picture win Oscar blank check film, he was maybe going to take some time off, but I'm happy to see he is getting right back on the horse. I love Bong Joon-ho so much. I talked about Parasite last week a little bit. I think he is such a unique filmmaker. I love Parasite so much. Mickey 17, I saw it twice. I thought it was a hilarious riot of a movie that, sure, it's very on the nose, but it's so much fun, and I just think he's such an inventive filmmaker that loves to do what he loves to do, and he's very my way or the highway kind of. He just has such a unique point of view, and he's just really wearing his heart on his sleeve in all of his creations. I love him as a filmmaker. I think he's such an interesting storyteller. Very excited for this. I think the animation style looks very cool, and it's going to be great. I think it's going to be much more rooted in sort of the smaller scale Bong Joon-ho that we know, instead of Mickey 17, which was this huge film, but that's great news. Let's talk about our next story. Zach Shields is set to pen the Weapons prequel screenplay alongside Zach Krieger. So Zach Krieger and Zach Shields will be writing the screenplay for a prequel called Gladys, which of course is about Anne Gladys from Weapons. Amy Madigan, who knows if she's going to be in it? I'm not sure she will be fully. I think it's going to be a film because it's a prequel about her when she was way younger. Who knows? Maybe she's like a time traveling witch or something along those lines. But I also don't know how I feel about this, because Weapons was such a great sort of singular story with a great start, great end. We know how it all went down. Do we need a Gladys prequel? Do we need this expanded Weapons universe? Or is it just going to be a one and done after the prequel? I really hope so. Not everything needs needs a sequel or a prequel. I think we are very guilty of that now in Hollywood, where we're just like, oh, well, we should tell this other story because people liked this one and it's a way to make money. Obviously, look, sequels have been around forever, and there's been plenty of franchises that have had up to 11 movies. Like, did we need a Star Wars trilogy? Did we need Indiana Jones multiple installments? Hollywood sequels have always been there, whether it is Christopher Reeve's Superman, where do we need a quest for peace? Probably not. But people have contracts, people have creative ideas, people have a want to explore a character further. Whose idea was this originally? Was it really Zach Krieger being like, oh, I want to stay in this world and I really want to write something for Gladys because I have these ideas? Or was it just like, oh, Weapons made a bunch of money, people like it, why not do another one? That's sort of on my radar right now. Is it going to be great? Is it going to be bad? I feel like we've talked about this before when it was simply a rumor, but it is fully confirmed that it is happening now. Warner Brothers did release some details about it, so I'm interested. I'm skeptical, but I am interested. Let me assure you of that. But let's jump into our final story before we talk about the drama, which I'm so excited for. The Pitt star Supriya Ganesh, who of course plays Dr. Mohan, will be leaving after season 2 and not returning. One of the night doctors in this story is actually going to be promoted to a series regular, so we're going to have a little bit of a different cast next year. Ganesh's exit is a story-driven decision, apparently. Given that Pittsburgh Trauma Medical Center is a teaching hospital, it is normal for residents to come in and out. And I think a lot of people don't realize that on the show ER with Noah Wyle, George Clooney, all those folks, characters came and went. Like, there were people that came in, went out because they were transferring hospitals, they were being educated at certain places. So it is a little bit of surprising news, and I'm not going to spoil what's happening in the Pit right now. We're going to talk about it later and what else I watched if you want to hear about it. But for her character, it makes a lot of sense given what she's going through in the show. I think it is a very worthy and poignant storyline that they're going to wrap up in a really great way, and I'm happy for them. You know what? They're a great actor. The way Dr. Mohan is brought to life really works for me as this young, confused person, and we saw in season 1 that she has no life and she's worried about, not really making an impact in the world, I guess you could say. And season 2 has really grown on those themes in certain ways that we'll talk about later, but that was the news for this week. Once again, timestamps below. If you don't want anything spoiled for the drama, which I highly recommend, go in as blind as possible, go see the drama, then come back, listen to this episode because it's a fun one to talk about. But let's do it. Let's talk about the drama. The Drama is a 2026 romantic dark comedy coming in at 1 hour, 46 minutes. It is directed by Christopher Borgli, who did Sick of Myself and Dream Scenario, which was a very popular movie from a couple of years ago starring Nick Cage, where he is, I think he's a professor and he starts popping up in people's dreams, and then he is recognized in the real world because a bunch of people in the world are having dreams about him, so he becomes almost a celebrity, but then he's also in people's nightmares, and it's about sort of the public turning on you a little bit. He directed and wrote this script as well as those on a budget of $28 million for A24. Reviews are currently pretty positive, 7.5 on IMDb, 79% on Rotten Tomatoes with an 80% audience score, 3.8 on Letterboxd with a 4-star mode. Given what the subject matter of this film is, I honestly thought it would be a lot more controversial. Like, I was expecting not Eddington levels of splitness among viewers, but I'm surprised some people aren't offended by what's happening in this film. Again, I'm going to stay non-spoilers. I will not be talking about what this film is talking about until spoilers. I'm simply going to talk about basically what I love about this movie and the synopsis for the drama. A happily engaged couple is put to the test when an unexpected turn sends their wedding week off the rails. The film stars Zendaya as Emma Harwood, Robert Pattinson as Charlie Thompson, Alana Haim as Rachel, Mamadou Ati as Mike, Zoe Winters as Francis, Haley Benton Gates as Misha, Jordan Currit as young Emma, Michael Abbott Jr. as Blake, Yaya Gosling as Jessica, and Sydney Lemon as Pauline. So here are my initial thoughts on the drama. I am very, very surprised by how much I like this movie. I was starting to get a little more worried as we drew closer to the release of this film. Like, is the twist going to let me down? Is it going to be just a fine movie? Like, am I going to watch it and be like, yeah, okay, that was entertaining, but I'm not really going to think about it after this? versus my real reaction was, as soon as the credits rolled, I have not stopped thinking about this movie all day. I've had 5 hours since the credits rolled, and there is just so much to pick apart in the drama. I think it is deeply uncomfortable. It is hilarious, but the script is so smart. I am very excited to see the public discourse about this. I saw some people sort of predicting that the online discourse is going to be absolutely awful for this movie, where I don't know. I don't think it's really going to be that bad. Maybe, I'm a dead man walking saying that, but I don't think this movie is going to be as controversial as I thought. Also, let's just talk about my theater reaction right away. Lots of laughter, not just for myself. I was laughing probably through 98% of this movie, and then the other 2%, I was just deeply uncomfortable with my hand over my mouth, shocked. This movie is so goddamn funny, and there were plenty of laughs in the theater. Like, a lot of people were having big reactions. It was a very fun crowd to watch this movie with. It was also interesting because sometimes, when I'm watching, I like to look around, see what people think of the film. The girl that was sitting to my right, I could not get a read on her. Was she loving this movie? Was she hating? Did she just not care? I think she laughed at maybe one joke. Maybe she was smiling because I wasn't staring right at her, but I did not hear her laugh really that much. I think possibly she was offended by this film, or she was uncomfortable by it, or she just didn't find it that funny. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too deep into it, but there were so many reactions in the theater. People really like gasping, laughing, whatever, jump scares, whatever it might be. I had an absolute blast with it, and I really enjoyed watching this in a crowded theater. Let's talk about the performances to start. Zendaya as Emma Harwood. I absolutely loved her in this movie. I thought she is so misunderstood, and she has such a power behind her and a vulnerability where she can really, just on a flip of a switch, like we see sort of in Challengers, I want to say, where she can be very dominating and very in your face, but then she can switch so quickly to a very vulnerable character, and you feel bad for her, but then you're scared by her. You find her hilarious. She just really can do so much. She is such a fascinating actress. I think, man, Zendaya is just so good in this, and I think her chemistry with Robert Pattinson is phenomenal. She plays off his weird little things he does so well, and they're only 8 years in age difference. I think she's 30, he's 38 or 39, and they just have such good, like, similar energy and similar young energy in this movie, where they're both trying to sort of figure it out and figure each other out, and they really do play the wedding week vibes so well, particularly Zendaya, who is obviously like the subject of this film because it's her secret that everybody freaks out about in the drama. I loved it. I thought she was fantastic here. Robert Pattinson, everybody knows he's one of my favorite actors. Like, he's on my Mount Rushmore. I love watching whatever he's in. I think he is fantastic in this movie. He is giving a show-stealing performance with comedy and anxiety, vulnerability, misunderstanding, just like Zendaya. He's just doing so much in this movie that is so fun to watch him unravel and go insane. He is playing this sort of neurotic groom who is overthinking, or is he overthinking? We don't know. It's hard not to obviously talk about the spoilers, but I think he's doing some fantastic physical work in this film. He's doing some great voice parts where, I don't know, he just says like a little bit of a weird thing, and it's so funny. He's also just so goddamn handsome. Like, it's so hard not to get lost in his eyes, where you're looking at the screen, you're like, yeah, that's a movie star. Zendaya is gorgeous as well. Like, they are such a good looking couple. I could look at Zendaya all day, but like, movie star status, the two of them just really elevate this film as movie stars. Alana Haim and Mamadou Ati, I thought the two of them were hilarious as well. They play Charlie's friends / Emma's friends a little bit. Specifically, Alana Haim as Rachel has such a fantastic role in this film that I think, I want to save for the spoiler section to talk about her character arc, but I think they are fantastic supporting performances. There are so many good performances in this film. I love the online headcanon that Zoe Winters, who plays Frances, the photographer in this film, is actually the same woman from Materialists that came out last year, Celine Song's second film. I really like that headcanon, and it almost really matches with her personality in the film. I think she's hilarious in this movie. She has maybe the funniest scene of the film, or the one that everybody just was absolutely dying at in my theater. There are so many funny scenes in this film. It is a hilarious film with so many funny performances. But okay, let's move on to the story of the drama. This is a story about the limits of love and the ability for people to change and overlook things that we've done in our life, or we've thought about doing, or things that we can say, like, how far are you willing to forgive or overlook sort of the imperfections about other people? And I think it's also doing a lot of interesting things brings with sort of hypocrisy and how we treat each other, and we're willing to jump on each other's worst days of our lives, and we're happy to judge people by the worst days of their lives. Obviously, it's a story about a big dramatic secret that is revealed, and how does a couple move on from that. And I just want to say, A24, they did a fantastic job hiding the secret. They have given absolutely zero indication, unless you are going deep into comment sections and Googling what is the big twist in the drama, which it was online. I know for a fact there were Reddit posts that were revealing what the drama is all about. Unless you are directly seeking it out, none of the marketing materials was going to give it away. And I just think that's such a rare thing nowadays. Like, we were talking, just last week about Project Hail Mary and the trailers being able to show Rocky or not show Rocky. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? And Ryan Gosling had the hilarious line of saying, well, that's like not showing E.T. in the trailers and saying it's a movie about divorce, because that's not what the film is. You know, Project Hail Mary had to have Rocky. He's an integral part of the film. He's also adorable, and he's a big part of the toy selling or plushie selling, whatever. Whereas I think the drama, half of the intrigue of this film is not knowing what the secret is going into it, because you're like, well, how bad could it be? And then the secret is revealed and you're like, oh, okay, that's very bad. And it makes you very uncomfortable, and not knowing and finding out in the moment really does make you go by your gut and your initial reaction of, well, how did that make me feel? How would I react to that? And it really places you directly in the point of view of all of the characters that Emma is telling her secret to, like Rachel, Charlie, and Charlie's friend, is it Mike, I think? It's such a fun experiment to go in completely blind and not have a studio spoiling their own film because they just can't keep it in. And well, we can't hide too much because then no one's going to go see it. And there's been a lot of talk about, is hiding the drama of this film going to hurt or help the movie? I think it's only been helping so far, because there's such a discourse of, oh, have you seen the drama? Versus, you know, if they were marketing what the big twist is, everyone would be sort of labeling the movie by that twist. Oh, have you seen the movie about The Thing? You know, have you seen that movie with Robert Pattinson and Zendaya talking about The Thing? I think then it sort of takes away the power of the film's mystery and the theater experience or the viewing experience that you can have. And it's really great not knowing what the secret is. I had no clue what it was. Going into it, I was so nervous. And then once it happened, I was like, oh, that's fantastic. Christopher Borgli, though, the director, I think he's amazing. I've not seen his two previous films, Dream Scenario and Sick of Myself. I think this film is so meticulous. It's fun. There's so many questions that this movie is asking you to really sit with and ask, how do you feel about that? How would you react here? And it's putting you in so many uncomfortable situations. There is so much atmosphere being built in the film as well. I love the use of sort of like sound mixing and the cinematography sort of just lingering in these places. And it's just so gorgeously shot by Arseny Khachaturian, who also did Bones and All, one of my favorite looking movies. But the use of these like slow creeping shots in the apartment and between our two characters, and how Christopher Borgli just makes you sit in the awkwardness. The jokes just keep going and going, and it's so uncomfortable, and it's just like, this is so awkward and painful, but it's a fantastic watch. And I think it's so sharply written as well. The script is just so wickedly intelligent, and it's kind of straightforward. Not that much insane sort of stuff happens. It's a very fun, very inventive, here's the big secret, there it is, do with this what you will, and watch Charlie react to his fiance's secret. There's not all these different sort of storylines going on. It is very much about, how would you react to this person? How does this person use this information? And I think the editing also does a lot of the heavy lifting in this movie. There's these fantastic flashbacks, which I loved, introducing them as a couple in the start of the film and sort of how they meet and stuff like that, and really introducing their relationship dynamic in a very good way. Like, I felt like I knew Emma and Charlie as a couple from the very beginning, because it's about wedding vows, and we're really just laying the foundations for the rest of the film to build up this structure and then tear it down. And I really loved that this script is not just revealing the secret in the first scene. We are not just dropped into the dinner confessional where Emma immediately reveals it to Charlie and their friends, and then the rest of the movies after that. We do get to see them as a happy couple leading up to the drama being revealed. And that does such a wonder for the awkwardness of this film, because it's like, as a viewer, I know what they're like when they're normal and they're happy and they're about to get married and they're totally in love. And now that I know the secret and how awkward they're being with each other, it's a completely different ballgame, and it really forces you to sit in Charlie's feelings. It's so good. There's a lot of really great people involved in this movie, like Christopher Borgli, like Arseni Khachaturian, but the music is done by Daniel Pemberton. I never would have guessed. The score is fantastic in this film. It's so simple. It's incredibly sort of pulled back. It's a complete polar opposite to Project Hail Mary, which in my first review for Project Hail Mary, or my first watch, I thought the score was trying to manipulate us a little bit and be like, oh, this is how you should feel. On the second watch, I was like, wow, the score is absolutely glorious for this movie. I think what Daniel Pemberton's doing with this score is completely opposite. There's no real big swings or big moments of this is how you should feel. It's very tempo oriented. It's very underlying, letting the characters breathe, letting the reactions and the atmosphere breathe. And it lends itself to the directing of Christopher Borgli, which is just sort of making you sit with these characters as they are uncomfortable. And it's a very restless movie. This is a movie that doesn't want you to sit still. It wants you to sort of move around, be uncomfortable like the characters are. And the music does such a good job contributing to that, along with Christopher Borgli's script and his directing. I think Daniel Pemberton's just a fantastic composer with Project Hail Mary, Spider-Verse, Materialists. He also did that last year for Celine Song. I think that movie has a fantastic score as well. But it's just a gorgeously captured film, gorgeously scored, fantastically directed, so well written. And the movie is addressing an extremely sensitive topic. And again, I'm not spoiling anything, what the big reveal is. I'm not even going to give any hints. And I think it's a topic that's been largely ignored in the film sphere and in, film and television. I don't think there's a lot of, I don't know. I can't talk about these other examples that are talking about this particular subject and how they differ, but I feel like there isn't a lot of mainstream movies that are really talking about this thing. And once there was the reveal, I felt like, oh, wow, okay, so we're just going to talk about this. And I can completely understand people that are offended by this movie or are uncomfortable from it, because it is a very uncomfortable topic specifically to speak about. And I'm saying that as a Canadian, where we have had this issue that it's talking about, or this social thing that it's talking about, but it's a very different lens from other people in the world from a certain region, or, okay, I don't even want to approach that. I think the biggest selling point for me in this movie was how funny it is. The jokes are just never ending. Every single joke landed for me. I don't know what it was. This is such a dry humor to this movie, and an awkward humor. It's very Curb Your Enthusiasm is the one that everybody's kind of thrown around, like where it's just about a guy who finds himself in this situation and it's like, oh God, this is just like, how's he going to get out of this one, or how's he going to deal with this one? I also think a lot of the sort of prodding and uncomfortableness of the situation and these conversations that are very uncomfortable feel a little bit Nathan Fielder. I don't know where I pulled that out from. There's one scene in particular involving a cousin that's in a wheelchair and Charlie, and I was like, oh, this feels very weirdly Nathan Fielder or something along those lines. And again, I don't want to say anything of what that is. And as funny as Robert Pattinson was in this movie, and he is funny, I think this is as close to real life Robert Pattinson and himself that we've possibly seen him in a movie for a long time. He's not putting on an accent. He's not completely transforming himself. This is very British posh guy Robert Pattinson playing in a comedy, just being anxious. And I think it's his most honest, close to life depiction. Obviously, I don't know him. That could be completely wrong, but I just felt like, oh wow, he's really just being very down to earth, and there's no bells and whistles to him. It's kind of just letting the script and the performance inform how we see him. And it was kind of refreshing. Like, it's just, we're so used to seeing him, as Batman. We're going to see him as the villain in Dune Part 3. We're going to see him as sort of a villain in The Odyssey. Mickey 17, he's playing a complete weirdo idiot. The Boy and the Heron, it's a voice role where he's putting on a crazy accent. The Rover, The Devil All the Time. I mean, A Good Time. There's just so many roles that Robert Pattinson has truly lost himself in and almost been unrecognizable, and just playing someone that's so different. And yet I found a lot of honesty and vulnerability in his performance in this film, and it was just kind of refreshing to see. And as funny and as real as he feels here, I guess we're sort of talking about the performances again, but it's a little bit different because I think it's a script that is letting the actors be honest. Zendaya is equally as important to the humor of this film, because so many of her reactions to Charlie, her husband, spinning out in the film are hilarious, and she's almost playing the straight man in this situation despite the drama being about her. And I think it works every single scene. It's dynamite. Again, And going into it, my doubts were kind of growing. I was like, I don't know. I think the big reveal is going to let me down. It might just be like a perfectly fine film that kind of runs out of steam. And especially my impression of Dream Scenario as someone that hasn't seen the film. Everyone that I've read their review or people that I've talked to about that movie, they're like, oh, it's a really fun movie that kind of runs out of ideas or overstays its welcome. I'm very excited to go back and watch Dream Scenario now because I think this movie's brilliant and I was so on board. I could have gone for another half hour, to be honest. I was so invested. It's only an hour and 46 minutes. I feel like it breezes by and it's just asking so many questions, this movie. I think it is really forcing you to look inside of yourself, and I can completely get why people will fucking hate this movie so much in every scene. Let's talk about the themes of the movie though, because I've already covered a lot of them, but just to boil it down for you, non-spoilers, this is a movie really about the hypocrisy of the world we live in. It's also a film, one of the themes is kind of, can you forgive someone for absolutely awful things in their past when they're an entirely different person? Do you actually truly believe in rehabilitation or growth or forgiveness? I don't even, just like transforming. Can you change as a person? Do you believe people are born a certain way and people are always the same person forever? Also, not being able to unsee a version of someone once they share a piece of information. Can you break away that part of themselves? It's almost like separating the art from the artist in some ways. Are you willing to look at something that you love so much despite very complicated things about it? How do we live in gray areas or in nuance in our life? I think is a very interesting talking point of this film. How are you able to navigate complexities in your life? And also first impressions and starting over. Are you able to do that? Can you truly start over and forgive someone? I think, there's just a lot of really, really, really great boiling points and themes happening in the drama. My 2 stars and a wish, however. Star number 1, the entire reveal or the drama thing, I think is just so brilliant. And once it's revealed, I love where it takes it from there. It never feels stale. It never feels like a gimmick, or to use the term again, bells and whistles. It's never like this thing that it's sort of jingling in front of you like, okay, it's a movie about that, but we're not really going to address it. I think it is truly interested in what it's talking about and interested in that subject matter and trying to dissect it a little bit. Star number 2, this cast is just so good. All of their performances are hilarious. My wish, I don't know. I don't really have any nitpicks. I think it's presenting so many different ideas. Does it answer them all? Not really. I think there's a couple of threads in here that it's like, oh yeah, I wonder where that came from or who put it there. Did someone put it there? But I don't know. I don't really have a lot of complaints about the drama. And overall, I absolutely loved this movie. I'm seriously shocked by how much it surpassed my expectations. It's funny. It's sad. It's uncomfortable, but it's not cruel. I don't think it's like Eddington where it sort of maybe crosses the line a couple times of like, okay, you're poking fun at this thing and I get what you're doing, but it feels a little bit crude or too much, Eddington's a movie that's really grown on me. I still think it has its issues, but the drama is a very different film from Eddington. I will say that as well. It's not a satire. It is a comedy, but it is not like an over-the-top satire like that film is. But seriously, the drama is fantastic. I love this movie so much. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars, which I never thought it would be that good, but it is that good. It is my second favorite movie of the year behind Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. I really, really, really want to see it again. I think this is a very rewatchable film and there is so much to watch over and over again and pick apart, but that has been non-spoilers for the drama. Let's jump into the spoiler section. Okay, spoilers for the drama. We can finally talk about it. So here we go. This is the big reveal. If you haven't seen it, don't listen. But Emma, her big secret was that when she was 15 years old, she had fully planned out to carry out a mass shooting at her school. Very dark, very, very dark. It is not funny. It is incredibly shocking. She did not do it, of course, and the film completely deals with why she didn't do that, why she was going to do it, and it's actually very sad when it dives deep into her psyche at 15 years old. She's being bullied at school, all these things that were happening to her. Why she didn't do it is also just as interesting in the aftermath of the entire thing, that she becomes a gun activist after, which her father even mentions at the wedding. But oh my god, the reveal fully lived up to the hype. So okay, I'll list off some of like what I think was maybe going to be the big reveal. I thought one of the reveals, because I had heard like, oh, it's going to be super divisive. So I was like, okay, she's maybe going to be trans, and we're going to see how people feel about that, because Robert Pattinson's character doesn't know that he's marrying a trans woman. So it's like, I don't know. But then, like, you know, I thought it was going to be something like that, or that she was a drug addict, because drugs do play an important part in this film, and it's a little bit of a plot device. So clearly I was not even close, like not even along the same lines. I did think that it would be a very political thing. I was like, okay, it's going to be something incredible. At one point I was like, hey, maybe she's going to say, yeah, I'm a Republican, or I voted for Trump. And I was like, okay, that's why it's so divisive, because people are just going to be dunking on it, or Republicans are going to hate this movie. But I really liked the reveal, and I was so nervous in the scene leading up to it, but it really, really, really blew my mind. Like, I could not have predicted it in a million years. And I think it really does spark some interesting conversations that we can have about the psyche of why these things happen, like how you even, you know, obtain a weapon, because she fully plans everything out. She's trying to record one of the funniest scenes of the movie. She's trying to record her like farewell message to the internet, but her computer keeps trying to update. Oh my God, there's so many dark moments in this movie that are simultaneously hilarious in why they're happening. And I don't know, there's just so much intelligent dialogue and commentary about school shootings and mass shootings and America's sort of gun culture and gun violence. All of the other secrets at the table, though, as bad as Emma's was, are by far worse, because they are things that actually happened. So Mike, his secret was when he was in Mexico with an ex-girlfriend, a dog attacked his girlfriend, and he used her as a human shield to run away or to get around the dog. Very bad. You put someone in harm's way and they were attacked by a dog. Rachel, she was babysitting a boy that was mentally disabled, and he was like, oh, I found this trailer out in the woods, or this RV, and she ended up locking the boy in the closet of that RV, and he was not found for multiple days, but luckily he's alive. She acts like that's nothing. And then Charlie's was that he cyberbullied someone when he was 15, and that kid eventually had to move schools, and their family actually moved as well. So all very bad secrets that were actually done, versus someone who had these deep dark secrets but never went through with it because they had a sort of a change in consciousness, or they sort of saw the truth in what was happening and that they could have a change of heart. Very interesting to look at this movie through that lens of like, okay, I can't get over how bad the thing that Emma thought about doing was, but at the same time, everyone actually did the things that they, you know, said were the worst things they've ever done. And there's also a very important plot device in this film that happens before the dinner, where Emma reveals it, where they see their wedding DJ on the street corner with her friends. And I actually don't think, I don't know, I'd have to rewatch back the scene, but I can't tell, was it actually her, because it's nighttime, she's kind of far away, but they see her smoking heroin with her friends, and they're like, hey, we can't have someone that smokes heroin at our wedding, you know? And maybe that was the worst day of her life, is what Emma says at the table. But all of the others, Charlie, Mike, and Rachel, are all so quick to jump on the DJ and be like, no, we can't have that, you know? Like, that's so bad, especially her friends. I thought it was fascinating. They're willing to sort of overlook that and say, no, it's fine. But then later in the movie, you have to see that after Charlie has done something terrible by nearly cheating on Emma with his coworker, he has also had the worst day of his life. Emma has, you know, started to feel the guilt of her past again, that she has clearly been dealing with over the years. That is when they decide to sort of gang up the two of them on the DJ, who is, you know, smokes heroin. She says, I never did this, and like, what, so you guys are gonna fire me? We see the DJ at the start of the movie, how we see her at the end, and how their perspective of the DJ changes. One thing I thought was really smart about Christopher Borglia's script is that Emma is half deaf. At first, it's this really cute thing that Charlie loves about her, and it's sort of how they met each other at the first time they ever met. He was like lying about reading the book that she had read, and he went up to talk to her, and he thought that she was ignoring him, but it's actually that she's deaf in that ear, and she had her earbud in the other ear. So it's like this cute little thing that he's had to deal with over the years, and he's like, oh, it's so adorable that you're deaf. And she tells him, yeah, I've had it since birth, but then turns out she actually popped her ear when she was practicing shooting the rifle. And so there's this like incredibly attractive and adorable trait that you love about someone, and it's one of the things that you love most about them, or that makes them so unique of who they are. And when it's transformed from being this adorable thing to actually a horrifying thing that they got from this terrible thing they were going to do, it's so interesting how such a distinct, unique part of their personality becomes such a dark element, and like literally a physical scar of the past. This is not just a mental scar that Emma has, but she is physically changed and damaged from something that she nearly did in her past and that she was about to do. Now, I want to talk about Rachel, Emma's friend, who's played by Alana Haim, the wife of Mike, one of the most interesting characters in the film. And I think she really is ready to jump on Emma, no matter how bad or how not bad her secret was going to be. You knew she was going to milk it for all that it's worth. And maybe, I don't know, am I crazy that I don't think Emma's secret, of course, it's really, really bad. She's a completely different person now. And I think Rachel's reaction and Charlie's reaction are actually making it a lot worse. And she clearly feels guilt, Emma. And Rachel is already a bad friend. She's already a bad person. As we know, at the start of the film, Emma is crying at a table and Rachel tells her, don't cry because it makes you look ugly. Just an incredibly insensitive thing to say to someone. And clearly she is maybe having some insecurities and she secretly hates Emma. And that's why she's willing to, say all this stuff. But also the thing she did, like I said, is way worse. She locked a child in a closet and abandoned them in the forest for multiple days where there was a search party and the child had to be rescued. And she's like, yeah, whatever. It was just like a gut instinct reaction. Like it happened in the moment. Whereas Emma's thing, she thought long and hard about and she never went through with it. And she spent the rest of her life so far thinking about it. Then at the end of the film, she's like willing to, just really dig into Emma and she just wants to hate her. So I just found the character of Rachel so interesting throughout this entire project, how she is so happy that Emma has revealed a dirty or a dark part of herself that she can hate on because she's so insecure. Now, one of the plot devices that we don't get an answer about is the erotic gun book at Charlie's work. So Charlie is a museum director at this Boston museum, like a National Gallery of History or something like that. And he comes to work one day, it's I think the day before the wedding. He's going through his mail and there's this book with a bunch of really gorgeous, female models that are all holding guns. And maybe did someone plant it there? He's like, who dropped this off? He asks his coworker Misha, like, do you know where this book came from? Because it's just a really weird time for this book to pop up. I thought maybe Rachel planted it there to make him feel bad and be like, oh, it's just like, it's just like your wife who's this smoking hot babe Zendaya, but she's also a lady that was a gun nut or, was nearly violent. We never get an answer about where that came from. Maybe it truly was just a coincidence, but I really liked what that gun book did for the plot because we then see Charlie fantasizing and trying to find it almost attractive where he's seeing Emma in that book as one of these attractive ladies that are holding guns. And it's like, yeah, well, people with guns can be hot people as well. And a lot of what this movie is sort of talking about is exactly that, gun culture in America, whether it is them, having this mug that Charlie bought and it's in their apartment that says coffee first or I'll shoot, the classic, I need my coffee first. And it's a joke, but obviously gun culture is so ingrained in America. And then we have the book with all of these erotic women posing with guns. And it's just so ingrained in the culture. And that's a lot of Charlie's rationalization. He's like, well, don't you guys think you're freaking out because you're all American and this is so your culture? Isn't school shootings kind of like what happens here? Incredibly insensitive and almost, very dark thing to say, but it is true that gun culture is incredibly prevalent in America. A lot of really interesting commentary about that and what Charlie's thoughts and feelings are about the country, how he's trying to rationalize Emma's feelings and why she went down that, rabbit hole that, oh, well, didn't you have a friend that, had a car accident? And she's like, yeah, but I wasn't really a part of that. And he's like, well, maybe you had some trauma from that and that's why you wanted to do a school shooting, blah, blah, blah. Like trying to explain and rationalize right after, oh, here's why you probably did it and stuff like that. I really love the avenues that they take Charlie down, trying to rationalize, but no matter what, he just can't forgive what is happening here because he's just never done something nearly as bad. Like I think the cyberbullying thing is incredibly bad, but he didn't, do something that he's now thinking about and regretting. He's not thinking about that cyberbullying incident, which brings me to one of the biggest twists in the film that made my jaw drop to the floor, where Charlie is asking his coworker Misha, like, hey, theoretically, if your boyfriend or your friend had planned a school shooting when they were 15, blah, blah, blah. He's giving these very vague details about Emma, and Misha is just like, what the fuck? That's crazy. I'd call the police. Like, what makes you think they're not they are the same person? Isn't that what a psychopath would do, trying to rationalize it now, saying they've changed, blah, 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 all this stuff. It is just not going well for Charlie. He bursts into tears. He goes to his office and it slowly turns into to them kissing. And this is right after Charlie asks Misha, what's the worst thing you've ever done? And she says, I cheated on my boyfriend of 2 years because I liked this other guy who, it was a bad thing we were doing and my boyfriend was too nice. So I think that's sort of what happened, is he wanted to be complicit in the worst thing that someone else has done just so he could sort of rationalize and see Emma in the same way again. Or it was just a crazy spin out moment where truly Charlie was like on his last breath. He was about to lose it. He's having a full psychotic breakdown. And what's so funny about that moment is Misha, his coworker, who is a serial cheater, cheated on her last boyfriend, is so ready for it and so open to it. She's immediately, it's actually one of the funniest points in the film where she's bending over the desk ready to have sex. And that's when Charlie breaks away after they have like only just kissed. And then of course we carry into the wedding at the end of the film. It's just so many little events in the film are leading to the uncomfortableness, the anxiety. Like it's just, whether it's Charlie meeting Rachel's cousin Sam outside of the office building and trying to rationalize and be like, oh yeah, I think you'd actually really like Emma because Rachel's cousin was paralyzed in a school shooting where she was shot. There's so many things in this movie where you're just trying to figure out Charlie cannot get over the fact that Emma nearly did this and thought about this. And the only way he can get over it is by doing the worst thing he's ever done. Cheating on Emma, sort of, because he kisses another woman. He doesn't go through with it, and it's clearly because he is having a psychotic break, but he's able to rationalize it after. And I think Emma is immediately forgiving of him because she's like, okay, I recognize what's happening to you. I know what it's like to have this horrible thing happen. And I think Emma is extremely forgiving because of what she went through. And I do think because of what she nearly did, she's probably a better person at the end of the day because she sort of stretched her bandwidth of empathy. And we see the initial speech that Charlie's written in his vows talking about how considerate, how forgiving, how empathetic she is. He takes all of that out, rewrites his speech because he's just like freaking out, of course, but it's true. That was his first impression of her. He is also a serial liar. He lies to her about the book. He doubles down on it and tells her. And, he's also trying to rationalize to Rachel and Mike, like, oh, well, she went through a pretty traumatic dead friend experience when she was younger. And I think that could really change someone. And he's willing to lie. Like, it's fascinating, the hypocrisy that is at work in this film. In the end, I think this movie is about being able to forgive people for the awful things they nearly did and the things that they do at their most vulnerable, and how can we rehabilitate ourselves or forgive ourselves after we do the worst things we've ever done in our lives. Can we truly forgive people for bad things? Can people really change? I think they can, and Emma is proof of that she went through that at 15. We see her whole story. I think there was a section where Charlie truly understood what she had gone through and how awful it was, and really did forgive her for a little bit, but then started overthinking it, just couldn't get it out of his head. So many funny moments in this movie. I mean, the DJ that's the replacement at the wedding, played by Jeremy Levac or Levick, I can't remember how to pronounce his last name, but so funny when they're trying to have sex, Charlie and Emma, and Charlie can't get aroused, so he just starts beating it in front of her, and like the most awkward grabbing of her breast ever was a hilarious scene. And of course the entire wedding scene at the end when he's giving a speech and just bombing in front of everybody, and he's like, fuck the speech, whatever, hilarious, and he gets headbutted. I thought this was just fantastic. There is so much to pick apart in this movie. I loved the drama. Go see it in theaters. Again, I give it 4.5 stars. It's my second favorite movie of the year, but let's get into what else I watched. Alrighty, what else I watched? I have been continuing Project Hail Mary, so I read just about 15 pages this week because I've just been so slammed with work. We had a shoot this week, so I was out very late for 2 days and then trying to catch up on other stuff, but I am loving it a lot. I got to the part where Rocky is saying that he wants to meet Grace, but let's talk about some TV shows because Survivor Season 32, episodes 5 to 10 of Cow Wrong. I just want to say that Scott and Jason, Scott the NBA player, Jason the bounty hunter, are two of my most hated Survivor players of all time. I cannot stand them. I despise them. They're taking people's supplies and they're playing with people mentally. They're acting like it's warfare, and it's like, just have some class. I get that Survivor is a dirty game, but it is a very, very entertaining season. I'm excited to see how Michelle's edit will come together. I know her win, very controversial because she removes a jury member in the end. I think it's, is it Neil that gets removed? Then Then we have Survivor 50, of course, the big episode this week. Episode 6, Blood Moon, where we had a triple elimination. We lost 3 real ones this week with Genevieve, Camilla, and Colby Donaldson. I mean, all of them sort of got the short stick. Genevieve, she finds 2 idols, doesn't get to use either of them because they're the boomerang idols. But Genevieve going home, it just felt like she had a very sort of rocky game on her new tribes. I will say the tribe swap, they called it tribe screwed in Survivor. When she moved away from like Colby and everyone like that from her original tribe, maybe she just had a tough time going with it because her versus Aubrey. And then, I mean, Camilla, she was always going to be a dangerous player. I love Camilla so much. She is such a fun Survivor player. 2 Canadian queens voted out in 1 week. We are down bad in Canada. But Colby, on the other hand, I think, yeah, he would have been medevac is sort of the consensus that people are saying. I think he's even said it in multiple interviews that not only did he have a, was it a fractured foot, but he had an infection of some kind. So he was just like hobbling around everywhere, couldn't really compete. You know what? Really, really good episode, despite I think maybe the twist mechanics of small tribals again doesn't work that well. I would have liked to see a 17-person tribal council. It would have been anarchy and hard to follow. But I do think, you know, it was still an entertaining episode because I love all of these players. It's going to be a bloodbath. I'm very excited to see where the season goes from here. But a new show, or a show that was back this week rather, Daredevil Born Again, Season 2, Episode 1. This is, of course, like the new season where we are fully getting the same creative vision throughout, because Season 1, they had filmed, I think, the entire thing or half of the show, and then they rewrote it and reshot it like completely. So the Season 1 of Daredevil Born Again was very chopped up and felt tonally all over the place, and I think there were some different storylines that weren't really working. Versus Season 2, I think the season premiere was incredibly strong, like just felt so thought through. I'm gonna try and catch up with it. You know, I'm really trying to get back into it. Of course, we have The Boys starting up again. Invincible is also on. Having 3 shows at once that are all like hour-long episodes, it's very hard to catch up on, but still very good. I have 1 episode left in the Batman animated series from 2004. So I watched episodes 6 to 12 from season 4 this week, or actually it'd be season 5, I think, because the Amazon Stack TV order is all messed up. I'm excited to watch the finale. I'll talk about that next week. But the Pitt season 2 episode, was this episode 13? I think it was, because we only have 2 left. Lots of tea going down. I think Dr. Mohan is crashing out. I feel very bad for her. Dr. Langdon starting to have all these doubts that like, yeah, maybe Robbie's right and I shouldn't be back. But then it's nice to see Dr. Mel supporting him once again after Dr. Langdon was also supporting Mel, and sort of this give and take that they have back and forth with each other. Robbie just fully saying to Dana, like, what if I don't come back from my trip? Very dramatic, but it did need to be addressed at some point. I'm very excited to see where these 2 final episodes go. I feel like the Jesse Ice storyline is not really taking off. Like it sort of just happened and they're like, yeah, he's going to be there until Monday and that's it. And then we can post bail. But I don't know. They're just not really doing much with it. And it feels like they're really more interested in what's happening in the ER rather than what's happening with Jesse, one of their nurses who was taken wrongfully by ICE. But who knows where it's going to go. Let's get into the 4 movies that I watched this week, starting with She's the Man from 2006. It is the 20th anniversary of this film, which is terrifying. This was an important movie to me as a child, not just because it's a soccer movie, but I just thought it was hilarious. Such a good comedy. This was like a pillar for my generation. She's the Man, School of Rock, Shrek, Toy Story, all those movies are like very important to my generation growing up. Things like that. I think it is still extremely funny. There's a lot of great comedy here. It's a good Shakespeare adaptation as well of Twelfth Night. I hate to dissect the movie, you know, being a soccer fan and former soccer player, I hate to dissect the movie through that lens, but it's true. It's like, how, you know, unathletic can you look in this film? Still, as much as a lot of the movie sort of made me cringe and it's like, oh, it's so embarrassing. There's so much I love about She's the Man, whether it is David Cross as the weird principal, and I keep forgetting that they're in high school in the movie, not in college. It's like, what a huge high school that they're living at, where there's like dorms and stuff like that. It's like a big private institution, but I gave it 4.5 stars. Then we have Forbidden Fruits, a new film that is produced by Diablo Cody, who did Jennifer's Body, Juno, Lisa Frankenstein, a very camp sort of witch movie, I guess, you know? The synopsis for Forbidden Fruits: Free Eden employee Apple secretly runs a witchy femme cult in the basement of the mall store after hours with fellow fruits Cherry and Fig, but when new hire Pumpkin challenges their performative sister sisterhood, the women are forced to face their own poisons or succumb to a bloody fate. It's a very camp, very fun, girly pop kind of Gen Z film, pardon me, not Gen V. That's an Amazon Prime TV show, a spinoff of The Boys. But I think the like opening 20 minutes, I was like, oof, this is like really going for it, and it's very tonally distinct. But after that, I was very into it, and I was kind of having the time of my life. I think, there's a lot of really weird parts of it where it feels like Lily Reinhart just kind of goes missing from a large chunk of the movie as Apple. But I thought the supporting characters were hilarious. Victoria Pedretti and Alexandra Shipp are just so funny. Lola Tung is pretty good in it as well. I thought it was a very kind of weird looking movie. It felt very TV, low budget, lo-fi type thing. And I don't know, the script is kind of weak and very just sort of base layer, but still, I had a lot of fun with it. I gave it 3 stars. It's now on my 2026 ranked list. Go check it out there where you want to see it on Letterboxd. After that, though, I did go and see Project Hail Mary again. So I've seen it twice now. Once in 70mm IMAX at the Cineplex Vaughan, which is a 70mm IMAX projected, like proper IMAX theater. This time I saw it at Scotiabank Theater, which has a IMAX dual laser projector. So that's like the, best laser IMAX that you can really get. And it still looked absolutely fantastic. To be honest, like, I don't know, because it's not shot on IMAX film like an Oppenheimer or, a lot of these movies that are actually shooting in IMAX like Sinners, maybe it's not totally necessary to see it in 70mm IMAX. Still a great experience, but I think it was just as gorgeous in the regular IMAX laser projection that still had the fantastic aspect ratios with the sprawling screen. It wasn't fake IMAX. I loved it even more the second time. I did give it the same rating as 4 stars, but I was like way more in love with the movie while watching it. I still really don't like the third act, but leading up to that, it's a blast. The Daniel Pemberton score grew on me so much. As Ryland Grace would say, at least it's growing on me and not in me. It's insane that Daniel Pemberton can navigate Materialists, Project Hail Mary, the drama, and the Spider-Verse movies, that he's doing all of these different types of films. It's just such a good score in Project Hail Mary. I've been listening to it all week. So yeah, 4 stars. Thought it was just as good on a rewatch. I think it might even grow on me next time I watch it, maybe after I finish the book, or I'll hate it after reading the book because I'm like, oh, what about this, and this? Because there's a lot of differences between the book and the film. Final thing that I will talk about this week is the Super Mario Galaxy movie. I saw this last night. I wish I saw the drama first because this movie was just so morally, spiritually, creatively bankrupt. Like, you could watch the Super Mario Galaxy movie, or you could watch me try to learn how to juggle in front of you, and it would just be as entertaining or as creatively fulfilling. This movie has nothing to offer. There's barely a story, and you're probably shouting, oh my god, it's a children's movie, like it's not that deep, which is very quickly becoming one of my least favorite sayings ever in the Gen Z lingo in the world right now. But it is that deep. Like, art should be art, and it does need to have a story or at least a script. The Mario movie just has no characters. It's simply like, hey, remember this thing from that game, remember this thing from that game, oh my god, he's going to put on that shirt or that suit or whatever it might be. There's also these weird scenes where barely anybody is talking. They're kind of just walking through these spaces and the camera's looking around and like, oh, there's that thing from that one game and there's that one character from that game, but it's not actually people talking about how they're feeling or where the story is and things like that. And every scene is just, hi, I'm Fox McCloud, I'm from this, and this, and my favorite thing is to do a barrel roll. And it's like, yes, I love when you just explain directly to my face. So I thought the Super Mario Galaxy movie was just totally garbage. I gave it 2 stars. Do I have any positives? Not really. I don't know. Maybe the animation's fine, I guess. I don't know. The animation looks like it's hard work and it's like cool to look at sometimes, but the movie is just so bland and boring and nothing's happening. It's just such a MCUification of yet another thing. So Super Mario Galaxy movie, really did not enjoy. I'm looking forward to catching up on a couple of 2026 movies that I have noted down that I have missed this year, like, Iron Lung, Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. There's a few little things that I've missed just slipping through the cracks that I'm going to catch up on. Excited for more Survivor. Excited to edge closer to the Pitt series season finale, not series finale. But for now, that has been what else I watched. And in fact, I think that's going to do it for episode 114, The Drama. I absolutely loved this movie. Once again, I will say it, I am shocked by how much I like this movie. I really did not think it would be this great, but I think it is truly great. As always, please rate and review the show 5 stars wherever you get your great podcasts like Watcher of All Things, whether it is Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or Acast. We're, of course, an Acast-produced show. If you're on the YouTube channel, hit like, subscribe, comment down below. What are your, favorite movie twists of all time? What did you think of The Drama? What are you watching right now? Let me know all of that stuff down below. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can email me, watcherofallthings@gmail.com, and find me on social media. Instagram and Threads are just @watcherofallthings. The TikTok account is @watcher.of.all.things. I post on social media every single day, different types of videos talking about trailers, news, whatever. I do a weekly review every Thursday. I do a Survivor video every Wednesday, a Friday 5 where I recommend things to watch. So check out all of my profiles on social media, including my Letterboxd account, KikiJ70. That's KIKIJ70. Follow me on there. Drop a comment under one of my reviews that you found me through the show. I will follow you back. Let's build a little community. Next week, I have absolutely no clue. I don't know yet. It's going to be a fun one. Maybe I'll go see Jerry Maguire in its theater re-release and we'll do a Watcher watch back. I will let you know possibly, or it'll be a fun surprise that is revealed next week. But for now, thank you all so much for listening, for all the nice comments and messages and everything I get from you guys. Love hearing from you. Happy Easter. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.